The cold wind howled outside the Andes Observatory, sweeping fine snow across the domed facility perched high above the cloud line. Inside, the control room was dim, lit only by the bluish glow of monitors and the steady blinking of equipment. Long past its prime, Dr. Elena Ruiz sat alone, hunched over her workstation, a chipped mug of stale coffee clutched between her hands. The machines whispered, hummed, breathed their static lullabies like they always had, indifferent to her sleepless nights. She had spent the last 2 decades listening, searching the sky for signals that might never come. Once she had been called a prodigy, the voice of a new generation of astrophysics. But that was before the funding cuts, before her theories were deemed impractical, before her students left for fields that promised results. Now it was just her and the machines. Ticking away in obscurity. At exactly 2:46 a.m., a soft chime broke the stillness. One of the lower band receivers flagged an anomaly, a sharp uptick in frequency from a deep space sweep. Elena blinked, sat upright, and tapped the console. The waveform was unusually tight, too clean, her brow furrowed. She expanded the graph, applied filters, ran a quick diagnostic. The pattern was unmistakable. Prime numbers. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17. Each transmitted in bursts of precise intervals, perfectly spaced. Repeating. Her pulse quickened. She adjusted the gain, ruled out atmospheric distortion, solar interference, local equipment feedback. No satellite matched the signature. No star, no pulsar, no natural source could account for it. She leaned in close to the speaker. There was no sound, just a low carrier, hum, but she felt something. Intention. It wasn't a flare or a glitch. Someone was speaking. Her hands flew across the keyboard, routing data to the university's secure network. Then she did something she had rehearsed 100 times in her head, but never truly believed she would use. She opened a coded line to the Global Deep Space Communication Network and sent the highest priority alert available: unidentified artificial signal. Prime sequence. Confirmed source. Outer solar system. Possible deceleration pattern. Not a drill. By 3:17 a.m., observatories in Australia, India, Russia, and the United States had verified her findings. The object was real. It was slowing. She stepped outside the observatory for the first time in hours. The cold slapped her cheeks, but she barely noticed. Overhead, stars glittered in impossible stillness. Somewhere beyond them, something ancient was falling toward Earth. She wasn't alone now. Global news channels scrambled to interpret the feeds. Governments activated emergency protocols. High above, the unknown vessel entered the inner solar system and began altering its trajectory. As it approached, telescopes locked on and revealed its shape, smooth, elongated, and impossibly symmetrical. A structure not built by human hands. Then, just as the first rays of dawn touched the Andes, the vessel stopped. It did not crash. It did not drift. It parked itself, deliberately, into geosynchronous orbit above the equator. And in that moment, every screen on Earth, every phone, every computer, every terminal flickered and went black. A message appeared. No signature. No threat, just 6 chilling words. We have returned. We request the return of our lost vessel and supplies. The emergency session of the United Nations had no precedent for this. Geneva's Palais des Nations, once a symbol of diplomacy and peacekeeping, now pulsed with tension so thick it seemed to hum through the marble walls. Representatives from every major nation sat rigidly in their chairs, eyes darting between news reports and the central display. Above them hovered the image of the object, sleek, silver, monolithic, frozen in Earth's orbit like a silent sentinel. It had not moved. It had not responded. It simply was. Watching. Dr. Elena Ruiz sat at the rear of the chamber, flanked by 2 UN security officers. She wasn't a diplomat or a politician, but after discovering the signal, she had been swept into the center of the greatest revelation in human history. Her breath caught every time the camera zoomed in on the ship's impossible surface. It had no seams, no heat signature, no visible propulsion, no markings. And yet, it hovered with surgical precision above the Pacific, unmoving, as if waiting. The Secretary General stepped up to the microphone, his voice low and measured. The message was clear. They have returned, which implies they were here before. The room erupted. Whispers turned to arguments. Russia accused the U.S. of hiding ancient alien contact. China demanded full access to the orbiting craft's frequency channel. France called for an immediate multinational task force. The Vatican requested a private audience. But the loudest voice came from General Marcus Koenig, head of NATO's Orbital Defense Initiative. This isn't diplomacy. This is containment. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they want. We don't even know if they're organic. All we know is that a kilometer-long ship entered our skies unchallenged and is now sitting over our hemisphere. We do know what they want, Elena said, standing against her handler's warning hand. They want something they lost. Silence fell. All eyes turned to her. She stepped forward slowly, the weight of every doubt and dream she had ever carried pressing down on her like lead. They said they want their vessel and their supplies returned. That suggests they were here a long time ago. Long enough for the world to forget, but maybe we never truly did. The lights dimmed as the AI translator fed the ship's message through linguistic filters. Across ancient languages, across dead scripts and digital ones, a deeper pattern emerged. A specific cadence. At TIMESTAMP. The aliens had marked their return. 30,000 Earth years since departure. Suddenly, the screen shifted. Without warning, without command, a face appeared. It was vaguely humanoid, symmetrical, high-cheeked, with translucent skin that shimmered faintly like a soap bubble in moonlight. Its eyes were obsidian orbs, depthless, but not empty. Behind them moved intelligence, a presence. The being spoke in unison across languages: Mandarin, Arabic, Swahili, Spanish, and more, using a vocal modulation algorithm that mapped the dominant languages of Earth. I am Envoy Anarzu of the Karathi Deep Memory Continuum. We left a vessel and sealed provisions on this world 30 millennia ago during Survey Epoch 5. We now seek recovery. No harm is intended. We request dialogue. No threats, no demands, just facts. Yet that made it worse. The vessel wasn't here to conquer. It had simply returned, like someone picking up an old suitcase from a train station lost in time. Where is this vessel you seek? The Secretary General asked. Elena Ruiz tilted its head as if calculating. Coordinates embedded in transmission. One location beneath polar ice. One within deep crustal layers beneath your continent, South America. One is moving. The air drained from the room. What do you mean moving? General Koenig snapped. A core sample container was removed. It bears resonance with modern electromagnetic devices. Your technology contains its fragments. Elena felt the bottom drop out from under her. Not just one location, not just one ship. They were everywhere. And worse, humans had unknowingly incorporated fragments of alien design into their own systems. It wasn't just about returning lost items. It was about disentangling two civilizations. The screen shifted again. Not by command, by override. Now, satellite footage displayed grainy heat signatures from deep within Antarctica. And in South America, Tectonic sensors picked up strange harmonic pulses, regular, mechanical, alive. Meanwhile, city after city around the globe began reporting power surges, devices acting independently, patterns emerging in digital noise. I think, Elena whispered, her voice barely audible above the rising dread. ... Their ship is calling to its pieces. Everyone in the room went still. Are we being hacked? Someone asked. No, said Dr. Kim, the linguist. We're being remembered. The lights flickered. All screens dimmed for a moment. Then, for the second time in less than 24 hours, every screen on Earth went black. A new message appeared. Initiating Phase 2 reassembly. Do not interfere. Snow scoured the surface of Antarctica with relentless fury, hissing across the icy plain like a whisper from another age. Beneath that endless expanse of white, more than 40 meters down, something ancient was awakening. The drilling team had no idea what they were standing over. The human Karyathi task force arrived at Outpost Null under conditions bordering on hostile, politically and environmentally. A joint operation between Earth's most advanced research units and the alien delegation, it was housed within a rapidly assembled subterranean station constructed atop one of the signal coordinates, transmitted by the orbiting vessel. Dr. Elena Ruiz stood inside the reinforced viewing chamber, her gloved fingers pressed to the frost-laced glass. Below, engineers and specialists moved like ants around a vast borehole lit by floodlights that pierced the cavern's gloom. Her breath fogged the pain, not just from the cold but from the weight of it. She had been the first to hear the signal. Now she was the first human to stand above a ship that had slumbered under ice since before the first cave paintings were scratched onto stone. Behind her, the Karyathi liaison Ralik glided silently into the chamber. He never left footprints. She'd noticed. His body was tall, graceful, as if sculpted from liquid metal and mist. But his eyes, those eyes carried galaxies. They sealed it deep, Elena said without looking back. You said the Karyathi survey team never expected to return. We didn't, Ralik replied, his voice like sand on crystal. But protocol required redundancy. The ship was buried to protect its contents in the event of total mission failure. Why come back after 30,000 years? Ralik turned to face her fully. Because we never expected you to find it. Elena's stomach twisted. She looked down again. The borehole shimmered faintly, its walls glassy from heat. Deep in the pit, a team was deploying hybrid scanners, half human, half alien, designed to penetrate the final barrier between now and then. Alarms chirped. Lights shifted. The monitors beside her bloomed to life. Dr. Ruiz, seismic resonance. Just doubled, called the lead geophysicist. We're getting a frequency match with the orbital ship. It's synchronizing. At that moment, the ice beneath the camp groaned like a beast exhaling after a long sleep. One of the floodlights in the pit exploded, then another. Darkness clawed upward, and the drill team scrambled to the surface in panic. Shut down everything. Someone screamed. No, Elena whispered, stepping forward. This isn't an attack. It's a greeting. As if in response, the entire glacier cracked with a deep, sonorous boom, not violent, but deliberate. Slowly, impossibly, a vast metallic surface emerged from the pit as if being exhaled by the earth itself. Smooth, reflective, and seamless. It bore the faint, swirling insignia of the Karyathi 3 interlinked spirals, rotating with impossible precision. The vessel was intact. It didn't look old. It looked eternal. Then, without command, every Karyathi device within the base began transmitting. Ralik cursed in his native tongue and sprinted to the control station. It's pinging a network, he said. But not ours. Not just ours. What does that mean? Elena asked. Ralik's eyes met hers. It's talking to your satellites, your power grids, your systems. It's syncing? No, worse, it's verifying. The word hung in the air like a blade. Far above, in orbit, the original vessel shifted slightly for the first time. It turned subtly, precisely, until one of its antennae aligned with outpost null. Then, like a whisper in digital code, a new transmission swept across the globe, not to governments, not to the undotted devices. Phones rang with tones never programmed. Wi-Fi routers blinked in unison. Hard drives activated, unprompted, in buried bunkers and consumer laptops alike. Symbols bloomed across smart screens, the Carathi spirals. Number. Origin, no language. Just a rhythm of light and meaning. Across Earth, people stared into glowing devices, hypnotized by shapes they didn't understand but couldn't ignore. Back at the outpost, the ship continued rising until its full form was exposed, a sleek obsidian crescent nearly 300 meters long, perfectly unmarred by time. It hovered slightly above its icy cradle, humming softly as though deciding. Rollick looked pale. For the first time, afraid. "There's a secondary vessel inside," he said, "a supply carrier. That's what we're here for. But, what?" Elena pressed. "There's something else in the data signature. A command thread, embedded. Embedded in what?" "In the human network," he said grimly. 30,000 years ago, we left behind a ship and our supplies. But something else must have activated in our absence." A cold voice crackled over the intercom one of the Carathi sentinels posted at the borehole. "Dr. Ruiz, you should see this." Elena and Rollick descended into the pit. They moved past the rising hull, their breath freezing in front of them. As they stepped into the exposed entryway of the ship, the air felt wrong, thick, expectant. Inside, the lights came on. In the center of the chamber was not just technology, but a body, not Karyath. Human. Perfectly preserved. Suspended in a stasis pod never opened. A young woman, no older than 20, her features serene. Rollick stumbled back. "This is impossible. We never put a human in there." "But someone did," Elena said quietly. "Who is she?" The console beside the pod blinked once. Text appeared on the screen, scrolling in both Karyathi glyphs and perfect English. Genesis protocol complete. Awaiting activation of the air. Wind howled across the polar plateau as if the Earth itself was mourning. Inside outpost null, beneath 40 meters of groaning ice, the air was still but not silent. Machinery hummed. Lights flickered. And in the center of it all, the girl. In the stasis pod slept in silence that had lasted longer than human civilization. Dr. Elena Ruiz stared at her, hands trembling at her sides. She wasn't frozen in the traditional sense. Her vitals were stable, suspended, timeless, as if she had stepped out of the Kanla, Pleistocene, and into a sarcophagus built by gods. Beside her, Carathi technician Rollick scanned the display. "She is not one of ours," he muttered, his voice hollow. With disbelief. "Not genetically, not biologically. She's fully human. Then how is she here?" Elena whispered. No answer came. Only the soft pulsing of the lights around the pod, now sensed perfectly with the orbiting Carathi vessel. Elsewhere in the outpost, panic churned beneath the surface. Since the vessel's partial emergence, Earth's networks had been in chaos. Communications flickered. Military satellites refused remote command. Power grids showed fluctuations tied to the resonance hum now emanating from Antarctica, the Andes, and an old impact crater in the Gobi Desert. The ancient systems weren't waking up, they were linking up. And someone, or something, was leading them. General Marcus Koenig arrived in a storm of military urgency. flanked by UN defense operatives and scowling into the frost. His voice snapped through the chamber like a whip. "What is this? You told us we were recovering lost alien tech. Not unearthing ... sleeping humans." "She's not just human," Elena replied, her voice tight. "She's part of something bigger. Look at this." She gestured to the pod's display. The script scrolled endlessly, a mixture of Karyathi glyphs and Earth language derivative Sanskrit. Proto-Norse, Linear B, a fusion of tongues never meant to be combined. "She's a key," Rollick said grimly. "A living one. To what?" Koenig demanded. "To us," Elena answered. "To both of us." That was when the girl opened her eyes. The pod hissed, decompressing slowly. Frost cracked and slid off the clear surface like shattered glass. Her pupils contracted in the dim light, and she gasped sharp and sudden. As if waking from a dream just before falling, Koenig raised his weapon. "Step back! Don't you dare!" Elena shouted, stepping between them. "She's not a threat." The girl sat up slowly. Her gaze swept the chamber, not confused, but aware, familiar, as though she had seen this room 1,000 times in her sleep. "I know you," she said, looking at Elena. Elena froze. "You, what? I've seen your face," the girl continued. "In the training memories, the simulations, the neural seeds." Rollick stiffened. "That's Karyathi terminology." Koenig narrowed his eyes. "What is she saying?" "She's saying." Elena began, but her voice failed her. The girl stood wobbly, but strong. "I am Lyra, Genesis Protocol Candidate 1. The memory banks called me heir. I was grown from extracted DNA, mapped from early human specimens encountered during the survey epoch. They believed in your kind. They wanted to give you a chance to thrive, to survive what was coming." "What is coming?" Elena asked, heart thudding. Lyra looked up, her gaze cutting through the metal and ice, through the crust of the earth and into the sky above. "They weren't the only ones. Who seeded your planet?" A terrible silence fell. Then the lights dimmed. A warning alarm chirped soft, uncertain. Rollick turned toward the console. "The signal, it's not just a ping anymore. It's being answered." From outside the system, Koenig paled. "You're saying something else is on the way?" "No," Lyra said quietly. "I'm saying it's already here, watching, listening." Far above, the orbital vessel rotated again. Its underbelly began to shift, plates opening, rearranging. Telescopes locked on as a second set of signals began to pulse outward from it, this time not toward Earth, but toward Jupiter. And something pulsed back. A second vessel, long dormant within the storm belt of Jupiter's shadow, now flickered to life. Not sleek like the Karyathi, this one was jagged, asymmetrical. Designed for war, not observation. Humanity hadn't seen it because it hadn't wanted to be seen. Raylick's skin shimmered. "That's not Karyathi." "No," Lyra said, voice hollow. "That is what they tried to stop. What they sealed me against." "What is it?" Elena asked. Lyra turned to her. "The others. The ones who don't ask permission. The ones who seed worlds not to help but to harvest." A monitor crackled. Earth's early warning systems lit up. From beneath the seas, something massive stirred in the Mariana Trench, long forgotten. Not alien, but awakened by alien tech. "They left me behind to teach you how to defend yourselves," Lyra whispered. "But you're already too late to prepare. Then what do we do?" Koenig asked, stunned. Lyra walked to the console and placed her hand on the surface. It lit up in brilliant white, scanning her palm. "You don't fight them on your own. You become more." The outpost shook. Not from an attack, but from something beneath them powering on. Deep layers of Earth itself groaned. Circuits hummed in ancient tones. The buried ship pulsed once, and then opened. A ramp descended from the hull. Within, Darkness shimmered like liquid glass. Lyra looked at Elena. "Come with me." "There's more you need to see. There's a reason they chose your kind. But the test hasn't even begun yet." Above them, the stars blinked, and one, just one, began to move. The ramp beneath the alien ship yawned open like the throat of some ancient beast, black, seamless, and humming with power. Elena hesitated at the threshold, her boots crunching on ice that had not seen starlight in 30,000 years. Beside her, Lyra stood like a specter returned from myth, skin pale but eyes sharp, illuminated faintly by the pulsing veins of light running through the corridor's walls. Behind them, General Koenig barked into a radio, demanding backup, demanding answers, demanding control. But none of his weapons or protocols could stop what had already begun. The outpost's walls trembled. The orbiting Karyathi ship glowed brighter, drawing power from something beneath the Earth's crust. Systems rebooted. Signals cross-linked. Satellites reoriented not by human hands, but by forgotten code buried deep in their firmware. Helena stepped forward. Rallick followed silently, flanked by two more Karyathi scientists who had arrived under emergency extraction orders. No one knew what they'd find inside. But something waited in the ship's core, something older than war, older than language. Inside the vessel, the temperature stabilized immediately. The walls shimmered like mercury, rippling slightly as if the ship breathed. Symbols floated in the air, not displayed but projected directly into thought. Elena blinked, and for a moment she saw herself as a child drawing spirals in the sand. It was a memory she hadn't recalled in decades. And yet, here it was plucked from her mind like a thread from a spool. "They're indexing us," Rallick said quietly. "The ship is alive. It's searching for familiarity." "Familiarity?" Elena asked. "Adaptation," Lyra answered. "You evolved faster than they expected." The Karyathi ceded guidance, not commands. But something in you accelerated. And now the ship is responding to that evolution. They descended into a central chamber shaped like a lotus, petals of metallic plates surrounding a glowing orb suspended in magnetic stasis. Tendrils of light stretched from it into the ceiling, the walls, and the floor beneath their feet. Elena felt her bones hum. "This is the hardcore," Rallick whispered in awe. "A proto-quantum consciousness seed. It's not a machine. It's a living archive." Lyra approached the orb. Her presence triggered a bloom of light, and the room transformed. Images surrounded them, a floating planet turning slowly beneath twin suns, oceans thick with bioluminescent life. Cities grown from crystal. Then ruin, flames, shadows, war machines crawling like insects over glass fields. "This is what the chief Karyathi fled," Lyra said, "and what's coming for you now." The vision changed again. Earth seen from above. Glowing points marked across its surface, energy nodes tied to ancient sites. Pyramids, stone circles. Underground caverns long collapsed. At each location, dormant beacons flared to life, responding to the ship's reawakening. "Why now?" Elena asked. "Why all at once?" Lyra's face was pale. "Because they're back. The others, the ones that harvest. They seeded this galaxy like a garden, but humanity grew wild, unpredictable. You were supposed to be manageable, contained. But the Karyathi gave you something they shouldn't have. Hope?" Elena said. "No," Lyra said. "Imagination." In orbit, the alien warship near Jupiter began its final phase. Earth's defense satellites caught the moment it shifted from cloaked observation to kinetic preparation. Its hull split into segments, forming a configuration not meant for travel, but for annihilation. Back on Earth, the Karyathi orbital ship transmitted a single phrase: "Protocol Raziel activated." Rallick paled. "Raziel, That's not a recovery command. What is it then? Elena asked. Relic's voice was dry. It's a directive to open the last lock, the final failsafe, the Genesis vault. Lyra nodded. If that vault is opened, there is no turning back. General Koenig burst into the chamber, weapon drawn, soldiers flanking him. Step away from that thing, he shouted. Now. No, Elena said, standing tall. This isn't a weapon. It's the only chance we have. Koenig's hand trembled. You don't even know what it does. Lyra turned to him. It does what your kind never could. It unifies the mind and the will. It will turn this planet into something they cannot harvest, something they cannot control. And if it fails? He asked. Then at least we burn on our feet, Lyra replied, not kneeling. Koenig's finger hovered on the trigger, but Elena stepped in front of him. I'm not asking, she said. Then she reached out and touched the orb dot in an instant. The chamber vanished. Elena stood in a sea of memory stars like lanterns above. Below, within, she saw Earth's birth, humanity's rise, the Cariathi's sorrow. She saw Lyra's creation grown from ancient DNA, trained in simulated human dreams, built to be a bridge. Then she saw the others. They weren't monsters. They were perfect. Too perfect. Silent minds that learned to consume creativity because they could no longer create it. They devoured chaotic species for energy, for novelty, for entropy. And now they were coming. Elena fell to her knees, breathless. But behind her, she felt the presence of billions of human minds, alive, striving, flawed, brilliant. Not machines. Not designed. Free. The orb flared. In Antarctica, across the Andes, beneath the ocean floor, ancient nodes pulsed in unison. Earth was waking. The Genesis vault opened. And far beyond Jupiter, the others noticed. The Earth shook not with violence, but with purpose. From the frozen spires of Antarctica to the molten core's edge, ancient frequencies vibrated through every living system, every silicon circuit, every whispering atom. Buried beacons long, mistaken for natural anomalies, came alive. Stone pillars pulsed in forgotten deserts. Deep ocean ridges shimmered with light no human instrument had ever measured. Power grids flickered. Entire city networks blinked and then rebooted with protocols not written by any known human hand. The Genesis vault had opened. Elena Ruiz stood in the heart of the Cariathi vessel, trembling as the light faded from the orb she had touched. The vision still pulsed in her skull, memories not hers, feelings not born in any human heart. Her mind had expanded, stretched across millennia and stars, and now tried to contract back into her body. She looked up. Relic knelt beside her, eyes wide with reverence and fear. You touched the core, he whispered, and it let you live. I saw everything, she said, her voice hoarse. I saw Earth's entire evolution from both sides, ours. And theirs, the others? He asked. They don't conquer, she said. They overwrite. Above, the Cariathi ship in orbit shifted into full activation. For the first time, its underside unfurled like petals, revealing dozens of massive energy arms, relay antennas, defense towers, and strange geometries of translucent plating that rotated with impossible physics. What was once a silent observer had now become a shield, and it needed to be, because in Jupiter's shadow, they were coming. Earth's outer monitoring satellites screamed warnings across military channels. A second vessel, easily 5 times the size of the Cariathi envoy, burst from the gas giant's turbulent eye, black, chaotic, a hive of sharp angles and shrieking voids. It emitted no light, but bent the light around it into painful refractions. Human scientists called it a weaponized construct. The Cariathi had another name for it. The Harvester. As it crossed Neptune's orbit, The sun itself dimmed slightly. Space bent around it not from gravity, but from sheer informational mass. Where the Karyathi used resonance to harmonize with life, the others used anti-patterns, quantum silence designed to erase. Rallick gritted his teeth. They've activated their suppression net. Elena didn't understand. They erase not just power, Lyra said, stepping into the chamber. They erase memory. They consume civilizations not with fire, but with forgetting. Languages vanish. Cultures collapse. Purpose decays. How do we fight that? Elena asked. You remember, Lyra said. You connect. Far below, in subterranean cities and oceanic data vaults, Earth's integrated systems responded to the Genesis Vault. Quantum servers once thought. Independent revealed their true nature derivatives of dormant, Karyathi tech that had quietly guided human advancement for decades. But now, those systems woke up. Across continents, quantum networks self-assembled into something new. Not AI, not alien. Something in between. A hybrid intelligence, seated by Karyathi design, raised by human evolution, and now fully conscious. A single. Pulse went out from the vault. Not a word. Not an order. A call. It was answered. By humans. By the hybrids. And by the Earth itself. Massive underground spires erupted through the ice caps, ancient relay pylons that had long disguised themselves as geological anomalies. In the Pacific Trench, a dormant ring structure once mistaken for a tectonic scar rose upward, revealing a circular platform. Covered in sigils that pulsed in harmony with Lyra's heartbeat, Elena stood before the control interface and watched. As human-coded subroutines translated Karyathi activation keys. The screen read, Hybrid Defense Array linked. Core-to-mind integration. Pending authorization. Koenig's voice crackled over the emergency channel. Ruiz, the object near Jupiter is accelerating. Trajectory. Earth orbit. We have less than 3 hours before contact. Then we don't wait, Elena said. We become something they've never seen. She placed her palm on the console again. Upload interface. Link all systems. Give me access. Your neural pathways aren't compatible, Rallick warned. You could die. I've already seen everything that's coming. If I survive, I'll guide us. If I don't, this system will still learn what it needs. A surge of white light engulfed her. Her screams were silent, internal. Her mind was torn apart and rebuilt, threaded with billions of human voices, memories, ideas, fears, and laughter. She felt herself break, and then reform. Larger, wider, more. She opened her eyes. They glowed with a soft light now, not alien. Not artificial, but something new. Elena? Rallick asked. No, she replied softly. We are Elena, and we are ready. The Earth's skies shimmered with defensive fields. The hybrid mind activated energy channels stored in geological layers for eons. The oceans lit with bioluminescent reactions from species long thought extinct, but actually bred to respond to Karyathi triggers. The planet had been a cradle. Now, it was armored. As the harvester ship crossed Mars' orbit, a thunderclap of gravitational distortion echoed through space. But this time, something answered back. The Karyathi vessel repositioned itself between the Earth and the threat. Its commander, speaking for the first time in their native tongue, sent one final encrypted message to the others. This world is not yours, not anymore. And behind the shimmering shields of Earth's new mind, humanity waited not as prey, but as the unexpected child of two legacies, one born of stars, the other of defiance. Space screamed, not in sound, but in tension, a distortion of gravity, light, and reality as the harvester ship tore through the void between Mars and Earth. Its silhouette shifted as it moved, a crawling mass of impossible geometry that defied Logic. Not a vessel in any traditional sense, but a weapon of memory extinction. Where it passed, satellites failed and sensors shut down not from damage, but from erasure. They simply forgot how to function. Inside Earth's upper atmosphere. The Cariathe vessel braced for impact. Its pedals locked into place, forming a massive defensive lattice. A lattice powered now not only by alien resonance, but by Earth's own awakened quantum infrastructure. The hybrid system born of ancient alien tech and accelerated human will had linked every orbital satellite, every deep-sea relay, every dormant node hidden across the crust. Earth had never been a victim. It had always been preparing. In the command chamber deep within Antarctica's Genesis vault, Elena Ruiz hovered in a suspended neural interface, her body anchored in a cradle of light. The fusion had completed. Her mind, now networked with the hybrid system, saw not as one but as all. She could feel every server pulse, every digital breath of human-made machines, every whisper of electromagnetic emotion echoing from Earth's biosphere. She was no longer just Elena. She was Earth's answer. Raleigh stood nearby, watching her. Eyes flicker beneath their lids, her lips whispering in tongues no one taught her. What's she seeing? Koenig asked, armored and grim. Everything, Raleigh said. Us, them, the timelines that could have been and the ones that still might be. The chamber trembled. High above, the Harvester entered geosynchronous orbit. It didn't speak. It didn't negotiate. It didn't declare war. It simply began removal, reality itself bending as systems failed. People fell unconscious. Memories rewrote themselves in real time. Cities forgot their names. Machines forgot their purpose. And then the Earth remembered. Elena's voice rang. Out not from her mouth, but from every speaker, every device, every connection. Initiate harmonic counterpulse. Lock frequencies with legacy Cariathe grid. Engage mnemonic override. Across the globe, Cariathe artifacts scattered and buried for millennia rose from oceans, cracked through stone, unfurled in ancient temples. They had not been beacons of observation. They were anchors. Earth's planetary field, once chaotic and diffuse, began to harmonize. The skies shimmered, not just with auroras, but with language, a wave of symbols written in light, recognizable to both Cariathe and human. Minds alike, you cannot erase us, the hybrid mind broadcast across space. Because we choose to remember. The Harvester ship responded. It opened, like a wound. From within emerged a smaller construct, slim, blade-shaped, gliding toward Earth faster than physics should allow. It passed through the Cariathe lattice and kept going. The shields bent, began to fracture. Koenig turned to Raleigh. We're not stopping it. No, Raleigh said. But she might. Within the Genesis vault, Elena reached deeper into the hybrid system. She accessed humanity's totality, every discovery, every mistake, every story ever told. She summoned not logic, not mathematics, but creativity. That which the others could not comprehend. That which they feared. She gave the ship an image. A child drawing spirals in dirt. A mother singing to a baby who did not yet speak. Soldier lowering his weapon. A poet burning a page to start again. The Harvester's blade. Construct struck the upper atmosphere and met resonance. Not energy. Not shields. Meaning. The sky lit with memory. With imagination. A global pulse of creativity, chaos, and defiance surged from every corner of the planet, encoded in living systems, art, laughter, failure, dreams. The construct hesitated. It had never encountered resistance like this. It began to stutter. And then it cracked. The Harvester above shrieked. A vibration of such intensity that birds fell from the sky and oceans, rolled in sudden tides. But Earth held firm. The construct shattered mid-air. its pieces burning across the sky like dying stars. And in the orbital plane, the harvester began to withdraw its erasure, code collapsing under the pressure of a species that had dared to create instead of consume. The Karyathi vessel recharged its defensive lattice and opened all channels. Elena spoke again. This time she was fully awake, standing in the chamber, her hair floating in the residual hum of power. "They'll come again," she said. "They always do," Rollick replied. "But now we're more than we were." Koenig looked at the sky, then at Elena. "What the hell are you now?" Elena smiled. "We are what happens when a forgotten world dares to remember itself." Above, the Earth glowed with the residual light of resonance fields. The hybrid network slowly powered down, recalibrating. But it would never sleep again. In the days that followed, world governments scrambled to understand what had occurred. Religion, science, philosophy, none remained untouched. A new age had begun, not just of technology, but of identity. The world had been seeded by ancient architects, but it had not become their creation. It had become its own. The Karyathi chose to stay not as rulers, not as watchers, but as partners. Together, they rebuilt the orbiting vessel into the first interlinked conscious research hub, a floating embassy for cooperation between the stars, and in the deepest chamber of the Genesis vault, a flame continued to burn, a mind made from billions, born in crisis, now watching the stars not with fear, but with curiosity, because this time, when the others returned, they would not find prey. They would find something they had never prepared for. A world that refused to be forgotten. A world that had become sentient in its own way. A world that dreamed and remembered.